So do you think that this process provides significant returns on student performance?
I am hoping so. This is the first year that I've done it to this extent. I've always included discussions, but not really intentionally thought about how to include it in each lesson. And so, like today, for example, we did not get to where I wanted us to get. This happens more often than not because based on their conversations, we go in different directions that usually is very necessary. It's usually covering concepts that they should know right now, but it's obvious they don't have a good understanding of it. So like, what is an equation? Or can we switch the labels in the table? And what does that mean? Why does it change? So
are you taking them there, or are they taking themselves there? Holes in their content knowledge, and I hear it all the time. They don't come prepared, they don't know what they should know, and granted, let's just say yes. Do you feel like this methodology is moving them towards recognizing and dealing with those themselves, or do you steer them a little bit when you hear certain things that make you think about what they may or may not know?
So a little bit of both. It happens both ways. Sometimes I notice things from the questions I ask that there's not really a good understanding, and so I take it that way. Like when we first started talking about equations, and I gave the students just 3 numbers, 2, 3, and 6. Write an equation using only these numbers. The kids were not able to understand what equation meant, and they were writing expressions. So we spent some time talking about that and talking about how to put those together. But today,
so those weren't arbitrary numbers. I mean, you were looking for 2 times 3 equals 6
yes,
per se, right? Okay.
yes,
Okay.
to lead up into what we were doing with writing equations with the constant of proportionality. And so that was one example of when I kind of steered us away from that, because as they were writing on their boards, I noticed most of these kids don't understand what the word equation means. And so we spent some time on that. Today, one of the students brought up, how did we get 0.02 as the constant of proportionality when yesterday, using the same table, we had 42 as the constant of proportionality. And when the kids were unable, a lot of them were unable to articulate how that happened. A couple of them were, but most of them were not understanding why either. So it kind of took us that way with her question. And so to go back to your original question, I think the discourse model, it allows me a clearer understanding of what they don't understand, those holes that they may have for whatever reason. Sometimes they've gone over it, but they didn't get a good understanding of it. They knew how to do it in order to perform, but they didn't understand it well enough to apply it in other situations. And so with them being able to question, which is not usually, they'll come up with these questions and you'll be like, okay, we'll talk about that later, but never come back to it. And so I kind of leave that open.
Well, I think that's the problem. Why they still have those holes is they, probably initially would have said, hey, can you help me with this, and got that pat answer that we've all given, and then time runs out, and it's not, I don't think it's unusual, but I just think it's unproductive,
Right.
to not let them, in the moment they have the question, deal with the question, because that's when they're trying to hook it to something. And so I agree that in that respect. And again, kind of breaking off of this, I noticed you said that, it gives you a chance to see what's missing or whatever. So, stellar. Thank you so much. It's going to be so useful, great tool, and I'm really happy you worked with me on this. And again, I do want to come back and catch that other group.
Anytime.
Let them see the dynamic that group had to offer as well. So thank you again, and I guess that's it.
All right.